Hi, and welcome to CMO Journeys. I'm Christian Badak, and on the show, I talk with marketing leaders behind some of today's most interesting brands. We get into their career paths, how they think about marketing, and how they work with agencies. White Castle is one of the most iconic brands in quick service, blending over a century of heritage with a modern push into loyalty, automation, and new guest experiences. Jamie Richardson is the company's chief marketing officer, bringing nearly 3 decades of experience in the business across marketing, corporate relations, and even government affairs, giving him a uniquely broad lens on what brand really means. Jamie, welcome to CMO Journeys.
It's great to be with you.
So looking back, this is CMO Journeys. What's something maybe in your early life that people might not expect from you?
I think, the fact that looking back over time, one thing a lot of people don't know is that I got my start in terms of how to present a complex idea, selling fire extinguishers door to door to help pay for college. So nothing like lighting up your briefcase and then putting it out with one push of that halon extinguisher. So, I guess that prepares you to face adversity in different ways.
Yeah, fire extinguishers door to door. You don't see that happening too much here nowadays. Love that though. So thinking back, maybe tell us a little about, where did you grow up? What did you study in school? Tell us a little about that.
Oh, sure. So I grew up in a small town in Michigan, just north of the Ohio border in Onstead, Michigan. Population of 562. We didn't live in town, so great life there. And then went to college at Siena Heights University in Adrian, Michigan. Had the chance to run cross country and track, and loved that. And always just loved leaning into marketing, and had the opportunity to start at J. Walter Thompson advertising agency right out of school in a management training program, and absolutely loved it. And that's actually how I first met the people from White Castle. So we had won the White Castle business, and I was working on the account. And one fine day, White Castle invited me to come work behind the castle walls.
Very good. So yeah, let's talk about that a little bit more. We have a lot of agency listeners that follow us here. What did you think client side would be like, and what maybe surprised you once you got there?
Well, I think one of the things I love the most about the chance to be part of an agency team prior to White Castle was just the great range of disciplines that are represented, and the great different ways of thinking, and the fact that it was an intellectual playground in terms of you'd be on one piece of business and get to be part of a new business pitch for something completely different and completely different category dynamics. So love the chance that I had to be part of that. Over the years, what I realized quickly is that culture matters, and that you saw a range of cultures in the different clients you got to work with as well. So White Castle's family owned. We have been for 105 years. And we actually have a vision that's real. It's not just a bunch of words we put on a poster. So feeding the souls of craver generations everywhere is our vision. And I think there's something so wildly attractive about being part of a culture that was passionate and wanted to make a difference in people's lives.
Yeah, no, I love that. Yeah, I think in talking with a lot of agencies, there is sort of this mystique about going client side and what would it be like, and there's certainly an energy to being in an agency and working on all the business, but there's also something about the depth that you get, and like you said, the culture of working client side that I'm sure is really appealing as well. So you've had a really interesting career arc, marketing into corporate relations and government affairs, then back into marketing. What did each of these chapters teach you that maybe traditional marketing path wouldn't have?
Well, I think in terms of how we think of marketing is about trying to say the right thing to the right people at the right time. And so much of that is embedded in any other part of our business as well. And so the chance to be part of corporate relations was very interesting because it was about our overall brand reputation in many ways. So I did also have responsibility for public relations at that point. But then on the shareholder relations front, being family owned was really about how do we transition from being a third generation run business to a fourth generation family run business. So that was fascinating, just trying to understand different governance and different structures, and how do you have the right communication channels so people are feeling a part of the process. And certainly there are many involved in that, but I got to be part of that. And then government relations were absolutely, you're going from offense and marketing to defense on government relations side of things, because so much of what you're trying to do is avoid bad things happening to your industry. And where on the marketing front, we're wildly competitive with those that we're trying to, steal share from and steal visits from. What was very interesting in government relations through the different great trade associations like the National Restaurant Association and National Council of Chain Restaurants, very collaborative. Good firewall, so people weren't unveiling things they shouldn't, but a lot of shared energy around how do we address this issue that's really going to impact how we operate, how we run our business, how we serve the communities we serve. And so you got to find a lot of common ground through that. So I found the process was great because it gave me a more three-dimensional view. Part of that role was also overseeing philanthropy and understanding how we show up in neighborhoods and community. So I think more and more, there's a lot of similarities in different parts of the business. And the more you can know about every element of the business, it's going to make you a better collaborator. It's going to make you a better brand builder to really understand how do we marshal the resources to get the brand health where it needs to be. So it was never a dull moment, and was thrilled to make the return voyage to marketing right at the start of 2020. And then, it's been fun.
Sure. So you mentioned brand. How did that experience change how you think about brand?
I think it gave me a better view in terms of the wide range of audiences. I think we grow up in marketing, certainly understanding segmentation and different consumer differences and where we can differentiate. I think for me, it just opened up the idea of like everything we do is part of this collective history of a brand and how the brand shows up and how it connects to larger audiences, whether they're users of the brand yet or not. And that reputation matters. If there's a legislator or regulator who doesn't know your story, how can you share that story with them? They might not ever be a customer, but how can you share what's true for you as an enterprise that's real, that isn't just around a bunch of fancy words and some construct that will evaporate if the language changes a little bit? Why do you exist? So it helped me put a clear point on our vision and our mission and what we do to create value every step of the way. And certainly that feeds into everything we do marketing wise too. You can't say you can't have a 2-hour movie when you're trying to connect and invite people to come in right now. But if you understand the fabric of what's there, it gives you the right platform to be able to say that in an even better way. Your call to action, I believe, can be even more poetical.
Yeah, no, I love that. So you've had obviously a lot of different roles interconnected as you've explained, but was there maybe a moment in your career where you felt out of depth, where maybe it was that pivot into corporate relations or that initial job, coming into White Castle, but something where you had to figure it out in real time?
Well, I hope, and I think this is 2026, we can say this with clarity. I hope we feel that way every single day. If we're not pushing ourselves to that point of being just a little bit uncomfortable, then if it's all about comfort, then you're in the wrong side of the business. I mean, the marketing landscape is changing at a faster rate than it ever has. That's not going to slow down. It's only going to accelerate. So feeling uncomfortable, it should be just like a giant roller coaster ride that never ends. And that doesn't make you feel seasick. It lets you ride the wave and become one with that kinetic energy. Certainly there are areas where, you don't know how well you're prepared or how much you've learned in one part of the business candidly until you're in a different part of the business. Or, for those who, I understand being here for me at White Castle many, many years, that's not the norm. So someone told me once, you don't know how much you've learned until you go somewhere else. And I think the same is true if you move between different parts of the disciplines that you're in, because you have a lot of intrinsic knowledge that you don't call on every day. That's going to help shape how you view a problem, the tools you use to solve problems, and how you communicate with others. So to me, there should be a natural anxiety that isn't panic-inducing. That's really about kind of soothing because it creates a spark, it creates energy, and gives you something to sink your teeth into. Like anything, the best thing in my belief is as old as time. The more immersed you are in what's new, the faster you're going to have your own perspective you can bring to it. So don't avoid it, lean in and go.
Yeah. How do you do that? How do you stay abreast of everything that's happening, and especially how fast things are changing now?
I think you recognize you can. And you also get a better filter and you're selective in trying to find more ways to expose yourself to what you need to, and not feel guilty if you don't have exhausting knowledge on every single topic, but also going deep on the things where you feel you need to lean in on, either because you have knowledge gap or because it's something you feel is important. And so for me, it's reading a lot, whether it's on my phone in the morning or, throughout the day or just even old school and looking at things in print over the weekend, but I do think it's constant learning and evolution and sharing of ideas. At White Castle, the last couple of years, we've had different, and it's really old school, but we've had book clubs, where a group of us have someone picks a title and they're businessy books and made fun because we're talking about how it applies and cross disciplines. That can be really cool way to share ideas, and you benefit from different perspectives that way from different disciplines. So it's pretty cool.
Yeah. Was there maybe a piece of advice or something you read from one of those books, or maybe it was a mentor in the past that really influences how you're making decisions today?
Yeah, we all read a book called Move Fast and Fix Things, kind of an antidote to the, go fast and break things. But, and I think for all of us, it gave us a little bit of a different structure in terms of how we can interact and get to better decisions quicker. I think that part of what happens with collaboration is it means to co-labor, to work together, and that it's, it really just how do you bring your respective strengths to things. And I feel that's something we do pretty well as a family-owned business that's been around for a bit. There's a lot of respect and a lot of ability to challenge thoughtfully when we don't agree, which is healthy, between marketing and operations and other parts of the business. So it keeps it fun.
Yeah, yeah. So you're stepping into the CMO role after, again, spending many years in the business. What do you believe has to be true in these first 6 to 12 months for this transition to be successful?
Well, I think clarity, in terms of and in connection to the team. We've got an incredible team. We're small and mighty, and I think getting to that point of agreement in terms of the opportunities in front of us and being able to share clearly what expectations are, what our goals are. And it's been so much fun to see people leaning into that and allowing us to build on the great work that's happened before now. So with a lot of respect and deference for those who came before me, and also recognizing as we move forward, the world's changing at a faster pace than ever. So we have to be able to recalibrate and move quicker to not just keep up, but stay a quarter step ahead, hopefully. So in that sense, I think it's being ultra transparent with everyone in terms of this is what we hope to achieve, this is how we're going to measure it, and this is how you can help us get there. I mean, there's nothing better than knowing that what you're doing is contributing to the overall success. And if it's fuzzy or undefined, it's harder to get motivated. So I really lean into empowering the team to do their best work and to set great standards that allow us to know when we get there.
Yeah, love that. So I've heard of and I'm sure others listening have, of the Castle of Tomorrow. So love to know, what is that for those that aren't familiar? And, really, how do you think about bringing something like that to life, but from both maybe an operational and a storytelling standpoint?
Yeah, the Castle of Tomorrow is our most recent design for the White Castle restaurant of the future, and really awesome project. It's the epitome of collaboration, because one of my colleagues and friends, Mike Guinan, who's our vice president of restaurant operations, really led on that in terms of working with a great group here in Columbus, Ohio, WD Partners, that do architectural design. But we didn't just look at how the appearance of the new castle would be. It was as much about the kitchen and what's the layout of the kitchen look like and what equipment are we going to have in there. So our two key audiences as we tackled the Castle of Tomorrow project were our team members. Our founder said long ago, happy employees make happy customers. And we still live by that. And our consumer, in terms of how can we remain relevant and facing forward and leaning into that. So really thrilled with how that initial design came out. So we've got it open since, October 5th was 2025 is when we reopened that castle. It was on a site where we had an older building, and it's been reimagined and it's doing fantastic. So sales increases have been dramatic, and just to describe it a little bit, it's a friendlier, more open floor plan. But beyond that, we think more attention getting. So, the sign, for instance, when the sun goes down, everyone knows this metaphorically, White Castle becomes Night Castle. And we brought that to life with a sign that literally changes. And I think someone's going to win a Nobel Prize for it. I don't know if that's been applied for yet, but it's a beacon of hope on the highway of life as people are wandering past in the evening. But a lot of other fun features in terms of design to share our story, but also make it an even friendlier, more inviting experience for mobile orders and delivery drivers picking up, and making sure our team has all the resources they need. So, no, thanks for asking. Castle of Tomorrow is where it's at as we look forward to future growth.
Yeah, super cool. So when you look at the brand today, where maybe are you feeling the most pressure? Whether that's maybe from the market, internally, how the brand needs to evolve.
Yeah, I think like a lot of brands, it's about staying relevant as today's consumer has more and more choices and more substitutes that are available. So we're fortunate. We have two sides to our business. We have a restaurant division that we're best known for because that's where we started. But we also have a presence in all 50 states and grocery freezer aisles through our CPG business. And so that balance really helps us tremendously. The challenge for both is how do we maintain and grow that top of mind awareness? So most folks have heard of White Castle. Unaided, it's unaided awareness we really want to drive forward. And we know that when we do, if people start thinking about the castle, whether they've tried us or not, we've got a great chance of getting a visit or having them pick up a six-pack at the grocery store. For us, we believe there's what we call a crave continuum. So on one side, you've got the crave committed. They are all in. Way over on the other side, you got the crave cautious. And no matter what we do, we're not going to do much to pull them in. But in between, there's the crave curious and the crave casual. And that crave curious audience, that's our Gen Z audience. And so that's a group we're really leaning into. We've got a lot of street cred with many of them, but we're working on growing that. And so we're looking at that as a great opportunity for sales today, but also future friendships and growth that can last as far as the eye can see.
Yeah. So to do that, specifically maybe with the Gen Z, what are maybe some capabilities you're increasingly spending on or investing into to accomplish that?
Well, I think in a lot of areas, and a lot of it is innovation around menu. So on the restaurant and the CPG side, we're doing a lot of work on food innovation. So, I can seal this in an envelope and we'll open it later in terms of what some of those items are. But it's been very exciting. And what we've really leaned into is consumer insights driven pipeline that gives us more than just core products that did well in the past, gives a whole range of others to choose from. So menu innovation on the restaurant side, product innovation on the retail side has been huge for us, and very excited to see what the next 18 months look like. Lots of unveils headed your way. First one will be April 6th. So just around the corner.
Yeah, I'm sure by the time this airs, that'll be out there. So everybody's going to have to go take a look at that. So you're new to the role in CMO as a CMO. What's maybe taking up more of your attention than you expected before you took on this role?
Oh, that's a great question. I think part of it has been really, really trying to understand better what's possible with AI, where it fits, where it doesn't, and how do we get even more brand unified work between our restaurant and our retail division out in the world. So we've got a great agency partnership. We hired GSD&M in mid 2025, and we've been off to the races. So they've been great thought partners, great connections to our teams. And so that's been really helpful as well in terms of trying to understand with the new agency relationship and friendship, what resources are there that we haven't talked about enough or leaned into enough that as a brand that's family owned and candidly smaller than a lot of our bigger competition, we don't have a global footprint like McDonald's or Nestle, but what we do have is a lot of heart and some very smart people who are really passionate about how we grow. And having that match step for step with the GSD&M team has been this virtuous cycle of real just exhilaration in terms of candidly, the biggest problem we have is what to prioritize, and that's the kind of problem you want to have. So, but trying to think through that in a thoughtful way where we can have the biggest impact soonest and continue to build.
Yeah. To kind of along the same lines with the prioritization, what are you maybe finding you're saying no to more often right now?
Random things that feel like fun that could fit for us, but aren't going to get us the return we need quick enough. So we're fortunate because we're well known. We're not afraid to try things. That's something we've always been known for. And along the way, we can get irrationally exuberant about certain opportunities. And I think it's the realization that what I share with our team is, hey, when you go camping and you pack everything up, everything weighs something. So it just feels like, oh, this might not take a lot of effort, but candidly, it's like, what are the priorities, and having crystal clear clarity on that is super important to us in terms of moving the right things forward the fastest, and saving things for another day. So we actually have a weekly Wednesday huddle, and we each go around the room and share three things, like what was a win from last week, what was a lesson learned from last week, and what's something you said no to. And just to really kind of socialize the idea of it's good to say no, because we can't be all things to all people.
Yeah, no, I love that framework. That's interesting. So you've talked about agency partners, and I'd love to know a little bit about, what does the internal team look like? What's being kind of handled there? What are you leaning on partners to do?
Yeah, I guess for us, we don't have a huge team. We have a really talented team and a really passionate team. So, we have a retail marketing team and a restaurant marketing team, with brand management built into that. We also have a team that's dedicated to what we call our Craver Nation loyalty program, which is a real partnership with our ISIT team here in Martech, and it's going really, really well. So, having that app. The mobile app was very, very successful last year, continuing to grow that. And then when it comes to agency partnership, it's fully integrated at GSD&M, so it's creative and media, which has been really helpful for us and helped us really unlock more opportunities. And so brand managers each respectively lead on that. We've got a great new director of restaurant marketing, a great newly promoted director of retail marketing, and they collaborate a lot. So to me, it's about getting the right people in the right places and letting them run. And so, yeah, it's coming together really, really well. So we restructured and reorganized a little bit to make sure we had the right people in the right places. And it's been fun to see them move forward and grow closer together and do great things.
Yeah, sure. So as you talked about kind of restructuring things a bit, how do you decide, what capabilities you want to maybe build internally versus those where maybe a partner can add real leverage?
I think it's really looking at what are your respective strengths, and then for us, it's a matter of efficiency and effectiveness. So I think understanding that there's some things we can do really quick and easy because we're good at it, and knowing that we're really going to benefit with the right partner. And so it's pretty straight ahead. I mean, kind of leaning into what do we get out of things? What are we able to put into it? I think our goal, well, I know our goal is always to be the best client, the best partner that whoever we're working with has. And we feel really treating it like a partnership matters. And everybody wins that way because we've got a shared stake in the outcome and wanting to get there. And you can either go into those things and look at it like, I'm going to squeeze everything out of these guys I can, which can work for a few months, but you can't, you gotta create something that's transformative, not transactional as far as atmosphere and environment goes. And we're fortunate to be at a place like White Castle that believes in that practices that in every department. So it's not just marketing. That's what our supply chain team does. That's what our operations team does. So we feel having a shared stake in things is always beneficial and gives you the chance to do something that I don't want to pick on any of our publicly traded competitors, but being privately held also gives us permission to make decisions that are more long term and that we don't need a 6-week payout. We can look at this over the course of the next 12 to 18 months and figure out what we're going to do. It doesn't dial down the need for urgency and quick learning. It means that we can gain the full amount of learning and make decisions for the right reasons versus appearances. There's not a Wall Street analyst out there who really cares that much about how White Castle did last week. There's a lot of people who do. There's a lot of team members. There's a lot of customers who want us to be there for them and grow for the long haul, and that's what we're aiming for.
Yeah, yeah. So when you're bringing on a new agency, what's the real risk that you're thinking about? Especially, a brand like White Castle with so much history and an identity that's so defined. What are some of the risks that you think about?
I think the biggest risk is not giving that important decision the attention and time it deserves. So we were fortunate. We worked with a group called Rojek Consulting Group. We had a great consultant, Cliff Courtney, who helped us go through a process that was about cultural alignment to even see who was going to be on the list. And so from there, we had 20 agencies that we looked at and reviewed material from, and then really narrowed it down and got to the decision we did, that felt more than just like, something we did on a whim. It was something that was purposeful, thoughtful. To me, the biggest risk is you don't do that hard work up front, and it wasn't easy. Of course, we wanted to move faster, but you got to give it the time it deserves and make sure it's really, truly where you want to be, because the hope is this is not a 3-month kind of fling. This is a commitment for the health of the brand for a long time frame to get where you need to be or want to be. And so I think that's important. I think the first 100 days is super. Every day is important, but getting off to the right start, moving with energy, fully immersed, and sharing everything you possibly can about what's great, what's kind of in between, what really needs attention. What are the things you need to acknowledge that we're not doing good in this area right now, and set that tone in terms of if we want to get better, we have to accurately assess where we're not as strong as we want to be.
Yeah. When you think back to that process or the review itself, what differentiated them from some of the others? What cut through the noise?
Passion and talent, and the fact, I think, we believe, obviously we hired them, that they got it right in terms of seeing what the real opportunity was. A tightly written brief that they used internally for the work, and then just visibly to three-dimensionalize that. We went to visit them, and we arrived, and they had transformed the entire outside of their agency building to look like White Castle. We walked in, it was like we'd gone to White Castle. It was insane. And the attention to detail, to me, says if you can go to that degree as an early part of a pitch of paying attention to detail, you're probably going to stumble into grace on lots of fronts, because you're going to uncover truths that others are going to miss. And every step of the way, they get that we don't have unlimited budget. So we find ways to do things for less. We find ways to move faster. And it's been really, really nourishing and good all the way around.
Yeah, wow, I love that story about transforming the outside of their office. You don't hear stories like that too often anymore, especially in this virtual, Zoom world that we live in, where sometimes partners don't even meet face to face, anymore before agreeing to work together. So that I really love that. So kind of in that vein, we are living in a different world, and we've talked a little bit about AI. I'm curious about how you're thinking about AI from a marketing perspective at White Castle. Where do you think it might, replace agencies? Maybe where maybe it won't, and maybe not even specifically in your situation, but maybe zooming out a little bit. How do you think AI is going to affect agencies?
I'll take a big picture approach to that. I think it's going to be like any other major shift. I'm not a doomsayer. I really think it's like any revolution in technology has provided more opportunity to do what we already do better, and I think that's how agencies are going to be able to lead the way in terms of how to harness it. And it's, I think, being able to set aside uh, traditional ways of thinking about how we solve a problem and understand this is just a superpowered tool. It's not a replacement for human intelligence. It's something that is able to accelerate innovation. So that's what I say to our team is like AI is not artificial intelligence. It's accelerate innovation. That's how we want to think of it. And to embrace what we can, there's a lot to navigate, but that's where we do have great partners who are already in the thick of that. And I think as we think through two things, one, the range and quality of ideas we're able to consider improves dramatically, and so does our ability to move more quickly to put those in place. And candidly, that's what marketing's been doing since day one. So I think being less orthodox and afraid, and being more excited about how we use new tools, even if it's uncomfortable with how we've done things traditionally, frees us up to think through what are the right skill sets, what are the right way to get the right people in the right places to be able to allow that.
Yeah, yeah, I love that. Well, this has been a really great conversation. I really commend all the work that you're doing there. I'm definitely hungry now after thinking about food this entire interview here. But I do want to wind things down, and we talked a lot about business. I'd like to talk a little bit outside of work.
Sure.
Love to know what's something that still gives you energy or perspective that you don't necessarily get from your role day to day?
Well, I had the opportunity to run cross country and track in college, and so my wife and I are still avid runners, and we have 5 children who are, gosh, they range in age from 16 to 26. But right now, 3 of us, 2 of the kids and me, are training for a half marathon in May, and so having fun races to look forward to. And I love that time out on the trail because there's a training schedule, so you gotta get whatever your 7 miler in this Saturday to get ready. So for me, that's just a great way to spend some time thinking and doing something active that keeps me going.
Yeah, I love that too. I love running, especially outside. The treadmill, not so much, but outside.
I'm in the same boat. I'd rather go slow outside and try not to slip than be staring at the same wall for too long.
Absolutely. Well, Jamie, thank you so much. I really appreciate the conversation, the insights. To everybody watching, listening, don't forget to follow CMO Journeys for more conversations with marketing leaders that are shaping what's next. I'm Christian Banach. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you in the next episode.